Okay, we are live. Welcome to the Avatar Slang podcast, your go-to destination for deep dives into the realms of fiction and all things nerdy. We are joined by a special friend of the podcast, Dan.
What's up? How's it going?
Good, good. How are you doing, first of all?
I'm I'm tired, but a good tired. This past month has been wild for me. A whole lot has been happening back to back to back to back to back.
Musically?
Yeah, in a couple of different ways. I'm in a band now. I can't talk like too much about that still, but
Mhm.
it's getting closer. It's getting imminent. Very excited about all of that.
Okay.
I've been becoming a heavy metal nightlife DJ as well. So that's a thing now. Not something I ever expected to be able to do or say, but I've been having such an absolute blast with it. My next one's on the 29th,
Okay.
and I can't wait. It's just um,
And where are you DJing at again?
Kung Fu Necktie in
Okay.
Fishtown in Philadelphia, and it's one of my favorite places just to be in general.
Mhm.
Whole lot of really good and cool people there, and it's a great atmosphere, great time every time. And it doesn't even stop there. I was just in a another music video over the weekend. We did the shoot for that, and
Oh,
that's going to be dropping soon as well. Not gonna give away details of that yet, but I'm really excited. It's gonna be super fun, and it'll coincide nicely with something like big in the world of pop
mhm.
culture multimedia that's about to drop as well. Um,
That
I've
sounds
got
fun.
yeah, uh, it was a blast to film, and I'm really excited to see how it turns out. I've got a punk rock flea market coming up. I'm going to see Rob Zombie, Alice Cooper, Ministry and Filter next month. I can't wait for
I
that.
saw you post that.
I've never seen any of them, and I'm very excited to. I love all four, and um, yeah, it undoubtedly will be a great show. It's at Camden, so great venue for all four of those acts. Um, and I know there's like stuff I'm missing too that I'm just not thinking of right now.
So,
When I was streaming Paper
mhm.
Mario like 2 months ago, my intention fully was, oh, I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to finish this game. And move on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And then I kept getting into like more and more stuff in my day to day life,
Yeah.
good things, good distractions, and was never able to get back to it. I would like to at some point someday, but realistically, I don't know when I'm going to have time to stream video games again. So like, it's not necessarily a bad problem to have.
Mhm.
I've been enjoying my time. I've got two cosplays in the works currently.
Are they a
One is
secret?
one is Gambit, and
Of course.
that one's a dream cosplay for me. I'm very excited to get that underway. The other one is it's I guess technically a mashup, a crossover between two of my existing cosplays, and it's going to be very fun.
Okay. I'm thinking of being Rambo at work. That doesn't make sense to you, so I'll make it make sense.
I saw you post about that, and I'm here for it. You follow your John Rambo dreams.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you know, but there's a headband ranking and you're in it.
Am I?
Yeah, well, I don't like ranking things, but there's there's a thing I call it's like a headband crew. Goats wear headbands.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember that.
Yeah. So it just dawned on me, Rambo's in that.
Yes.
I mean, and, he's maybe a little too soldiery for my taste usually, but in the 80s way, he's pretty cool.
I mean, classic film, classic role, classic
Mhm.
part. He's a Mortal Kombat character now too.
He is. So,
So I
question.
think Rambo transcends just
Mhm.
the typecasting of being a tough guy military dude anymore.
Yeah,
He I think he's achieved pop culture icon status.
I'll agree with that because to give you a little perspective, my family in the 2000s when a lot of them came from Liberia, they were like all they talked about was Rambo. Like he was a big deal over there, and they knew Rambo more than I knew Rambo.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I just to double down, I agree with you. He's definitely a pop culture icon.
And there's a lot of stuff that and 80s films are magical. I mean, it's definitely my favorite decade for music. It might be my favorite decade for film as well.
Okay.
Um, but a whole lot of like pop culture film icons
Hmm.
came out of live action projects in the 80s. Not just like Rambo and Ghostbusters and the
Hmm.
Terminator and whatever, but also like the Karate Kid, that film
Yeah.
trilogy.
It fuels a lot of what's happening now.
Yeah, yeah, we're trying to recapture that magic as well. Hollywood as the film industry is trying to
Hmm.
recapture that magic. Hell, Alien Romulus just dropped, and it's my understanding. I haven't seen it yet. I want
Hmm.
to, but it's my understanding that A, it's good.
Hmm.
It doesn't suck. And B, part of why it really doesn't suck is that it's managed to grab onto some of that magic that the first two films had, the
Is it Ridley
things that
Scott?
people really liked about it to begin with. It's not Ridley Scott. No, it's a new director, and he
Okay.
managed to, from what I understand, managed to pull off what Ridley Scott seemingly was unable to for the past while. And that's not a dig
Got you.
against Ridley Scott. Ridley Scott's incredible. It's just like it's cool to see. It's cool to see somebody outside the origins of that project manage to strike on that point that people really identified with that series with.
Because he did the prequel, so yeah, I get it. Yeah, so I guess they were just like, let's do something, have a fresh mind on this IP.
Yeah.
So I had a question. Oh, okay. To jump off your 80s point, and it's probably a good transition to what you want to talk about. Kevin Feige, a lot of his inspiration for the MCU comes from the 80s. Things like dang, I don't remember the director's name, but the one who did like Breakfast Club and the John Hughes movies.
Yep. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
And
his
and not
inspiration comes
just
from
not just
those.
Kevin, John Favreau chases that style a whole lot too.
Okay.
So
That I can see
it's
that.
a two-pronged theme inside of the
Yeah.
MCU, and you're absolutely correct. You can see the fingerprints of John Hughes movies all up and down the
Mhm.
MCU, and it's not just. I would go so far as to say that it's not just contains to the MCU. Those stories are iconic. The Breakfast Club's an iconic movie. It created
Mhm.
iconic moments and iconic characters, um, and it affected how Marvel wrote their comics as well. Not We're not just talking about their film projects and everything, but the way that Marvel likes to humanize and make their characters relatable shifted with the times, notably
Mhm.
in the late '80s and early '90s, directing away from like the Claremont Jim Lee X-Men era, swerving sharply into Maximum Carnage, Age of Apocalypse,
Mhm.
and the big hits of the '90s for them. And when they started introducing characters that came out of that pocket, like Firestar and so on and so forth, um, a lot of them,
Mhm.
a lot of those personalities, the '90s era characters, they were influenced by '80s film.
I can see that. I mean, I can see that. Like, I definitely am with you with the 80s movies thing. Like, I mean, I like the movies I grew up with in the late 2000s, 2010s for different reasons. But I definitely agree with the music, especially if I do because for me, it's like if I'm doing non-rap, I do a lot of the '80s music, like Michael Jackson, Prince, even the soul and rock artists. The '80s
Dude,
was
even
very good in multiple genres.
and for whatever what is about to come out of my mouth is worth coming from me.
Mhm,
Even when it comes to rap, I
mhm.
love 80s hip hop. I
Do you
love
really?
Run I love Run DMC. I love
Okay.
Grandmaster Flash. I just those roots, that origin point, Sugar Hill Gang, Big Daddy Kane, fucking I that's the stuff that I find myself going back and listening to most
Mhm.
often when I'm not listening to the ultra technical stuff like Aesop Rock, Wu Tang, and Tech Nine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's like and Kendrick. There's like two sides
Mhm,
of hip hop that I really enjoy. It's either the ultra technical conceptual masterclass stuff, or it's the
mhm.
like bread and butter origin point stuff.
I know what you mean. Okay, that's a good way to put it.
And even for non-rap, like you said, Michael Jackson, Prince, Cyndi Lauper. If we want to talk about 80s
I
pop,
randomly saw her live 2 years ago. I didn't
oh,
even know
that's
she would be there.
awesome.
Yeah, I went to Global Citizen. I knew Meek Mill and Jennifer Lopez, who I'm not a Jennifer Lopez fan, but she was there. Coldplay was there, and Cyndi Lauper was the opening performance. I was like, wait, what?
How was she the opener? Jeez. But 80s pop, 80s
Uh-huh.
pop, in my opinion, is the most creative era in pop music. The pop artists in the 80s were not afraid to have fun and get crazy weird with everything that they did. And that holds true for music across the spectrum. In the 80s, there was the most amount of creativity and
Mhm,
experimentation across the board.
mhm,
Um, and there was something for everybody, right? Heavy metal was exploding, hard rock
mhm.
was exploding. You had new wave happening, synth wave, dark wave, even country music was still going strong. Like in the pre-bro country era, there was a lot of good music that come out
Wanna
of
know something?
the 80s in that pocket.
I don't know '80s country.
Well,
Like,
that's
but
that's a
also
whole
know that
separate
my family's history here starts in like '89. So there's
that's
that.
that's a whole separate conversation.
Okay,
That
is Kenny Rogers country?
Yeah. So um, to how do I want to put this? Um, and I promise this is relevant. I'm going to
Okay,
circle back around to how this is relevant. It's going to tie together. But the
sure.
first night I was doing my metal DJ gig, I
Mhm.
had somebody come up to the booth and request Dance Gavin Dance. And if you're not
Okay.
familiar with Dance Gavin Dance, they're a I guess the best blanket term I can apply to Dance Gavin Dance is like alt post punk,
Mhm.
but I hate slapping any one label onto a band's that has as diverse a catalog as they do.
Okay.
And it was this girl who her and her friends were there, and I've gotten to know them since. They're super cool, and she was like, "Can I request that? Are they metal? Is that okay?" And I looked back at her like, "Yeah." Something that I like to say about people
Mhm.
is that people are very rarely entirely one thing, and certainly
I
not all of
agree.
and certainly not all of the time. Generally, people are multifaceted, and depending on, what they're going through, what time of the day you catch them at, or what else may be going on, there's a whole lot more than you might think that they would say or do. And good bands are
Mhm.
very rarely one thing. So is Dance Gavin Dance metal all the
Wait, can I
time?
add to that
No.
point real quick?
Sure.
You're my leftist friend here, so you may agree that I think genres and putting people into a box, that's a product of capitalism to me.
Yeah. Well, so
Or maybe it's not a product of capitalism, but
I
it's a
wouldn't
function of
call it a
capitalism.
product. I wouldn't call it a product of capitalism. I would call it a
Mhm.
symptom of neoliberalism. Um,
Hmm.
I so the Democratic Party in this country has a really shitty habit of a hinging a lot of their initiatives and motives and campaigns on identity politics, which are
Mhm.
a goddamn poison. But then also in the same breath saying, "Oh, you should vote for this person because they're this, that, or the other," using those same identity politics to demonize the people that they don't like and think that America on the whole shouldn't like either. And maybe they're right that we shouldn't like them. Maybe they're not, but
But that's what they do.
it's what they do. And if your reason for not liking somebody is, oh, he's old or she's a woman or whatever, then you're part of the
Oh,
problem. You're not part of a
okay.
solution. But going back to what I was saying a little bit ago, is Dance Gavin Dance metal all the time? No, but
Mhm.
they are metal. So we found a heavy Dance Gavin Dance song and we threw it on. Is Kenny Rogers country all the time? No. Does Kenny Rogers have country music in his catalog? Certainly.
That's fair. That's a good way to put it. Like some people started in one genre, like Pink used to be R&B, then she transferred to
By that
pop.
by that same token, you could slide Bob Seger in the 80s country as well, if you've ever heard of Bob
Mhm.
Seger.
I haven't, but I'm typing them in so I could keep that name.
Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band.
Bob Seger. Okay, I got a tab open. I've seen
Not
this man
country,
before.
not country all the time, has done songs that like if you listen to them in a vacuum are country as hell.
75 million records, and I missed this guy.
Uh, oh yeah, dude. Hugely popular and deservedly so.
Okay. Oh, he's from Motown.
Yep.
Okay. You taught me a couple of things today already.
Happy to hear it.
So, do you want to get into the Disney? It's funny that Disney is pissing us off in some ways because this is before the. I don't mean to laugh, but sometimes it's interesting how people pick topics on shows and they think it's because something happened. It has nothing to do with the Disney Plus controversy. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, I have.
Like the theme
I
park thing?
mean, not only have I heard about it, I've read about it. It's all up and down my timeline, and it's absolutely
Okay.
absurd. Like,
Yeah,
look,
but
I get it. Disney has the best lawyers in the world, or whatever, but on no uncertain terms, this is one of the most unethical attempts at anything I've ever seen a company try to pull. It's just absolutely insane.
I actually thought it was fake or like not fake. I thought it was overblown. I, with anything, I don't try to just read on Instagram and go with it. I'm like, okay, I gotta actually read into this to see what's true and what's not. I've seen some good sources say that Disney tried to use Disney Plus against that family.
Hmm.
That's not
Yeah.
good.
No, no, it isn't.
It's weird that you're a capitalist company and you do that because like you're already expensive enough. You already take up enough of people's lives. Like, do you want people to not buy your services?
Disney is maybe not one of the most valuable companies in the world, but they're certainly one of the most valuable companies in the United States. And for them to make the choice to, instead of simply making some sort of reparations with this family that the member thereof suffered a wrongful death because of somebody
Foul
under
labor.
their employment at one of their restaurants, which would have been, although no replacement for the person themselves, it would have been
Mhm.
the right thing to do in the purview of the law and what we're still able to do in the wake of things like that. For them to have made the choice not to do that,
Mhm.
and instead to have said, even though we're rich as hell, no, and instead we're going to let this be a PR nightmare,
Yeah.
speaks
That's
to the state. of Disney as a whole, in my opinion, currently.
Yeah, because like I mentioned earlier, they took their first loss in forever
Mm-hmm.
last year. Like they lost money last year.
Yep.
I love making fun of rich people, so I'm going to hammer in.
Oh, me too.
Um, Disney, Bob Iger stepped down. They got a new CEO. They blamed the new CEO. He made mistakes from what I read. I don't really follow that stuff usually, but I read the MCU book. I'm a Marvel guy, so
Yeah.
they talked about it. The new CEO made mistakes, but he inherited a lot of the mess Iger gave him because Disney Plus is a big reason Disney lost money. Disney
Mm-hmm.
Plus is Bob Iger's baby. Bob Iger said it was his idea to give a lot of quantity, like a lot of Marvel shows. So now they were spread thin. That was his idea. Now I don't complain about Marvel shows as much as other people do. There's things I don't like, don't get me wrong. But I'm just saying, like everyone being unhappy with Marvel, that's an Iger thing. And now he came in to quote unquote save the day and pretend it's not his thing. But I'm like, Disney Plus is all you. Now this is happening, and it's like, do y'all have no grasp of people and like PR and all that?
So speaking to what you just said about Disney taking that loss for the first time in who knows how long last year, I think that put them in the panic mode. And a lot of what was going on with the Marvel projects, the Marvel TV projects on Disney Plus, they were already pretty entrenched in and committed to, in terms of like, yeah, we're going to do this and it's going to be great. And we're going to use this to set up for the next phase of the MCU. And this is how we're going to architect it all together. And it's going to hold everybody over while we have our 3-year development cycle on our massive CGI films or whatever. And on paper, it was a good idea. In practice, because the pandemic squeezed everybody and Disney started
Mhm.
cutting corners in terms of the quality of writers and stuff they
They
were
started,
hiring, and
yes.
that combined
They even
with
changed
like,
the order of the slate because of COVID,
yes,
which
yes,
means creatively
eh,
things changed.
yes, and that combined with the ridiculous unfair crunch times they started putting on the projects that cause everything from the writing and visuals and screenplay to the timing of the releases to suffer. The wheels were coming off the wagon, the glue was coming undone, and
Not to
I
mention
was not
that also
surprised.
I'm sorry, I cut you off. I thought you were about to be done. My
Oh,
bad.
it's all good. I was not surprised to see where things ended up as far as like the announcement that came for the TV projects on Disney Plus. Oh, we're gonna dial these back. Yeah, you should. You should regroup
Hmm.
and reinvest where it matters and put out a quality product again, which it seems that's their intention
Hmm.
for Daredevil Born Again. The problem is at this point, I don't care.
So I will say honestly, I was at the point where I didn't care about Daredevil Born Again because
Oh, it's
I'm
not
not a.
specific. It's not specifically that I don't care about Daredevil Born Again, right?
Mhm. No,
Don't get
I
me
didn't
wrong.
care at all. Oh shoot, okay.
I love Daredevil.
Hmm.
It's that I don't care about the MCU on the whole anymore.
To the audio listeners, Dan has a tattoo, a very good tattoo of Daredevil's mask on his left arm, left shoulder.
I share this tattoo with my 3 best friends, and
Okay.
all 4 of us have it on our left arm. I have mine on my shoulder. My friend Dan has his on his tricep here. My friend Paul has his on his forearm, and my
Mhm.
friend Andrew has his on his hand.
Okay. That's a really good tattoo. The artist did a great job on that.
He's a great artist. I have 3 tattoos. I just got a new one
Mhm.
this past weekend, and he's done all 3 of them. He's doing my 4th one as well. I already know what that is and where it's going. Oh no! Did the connection nosedive?
Did you hear?
I didn't. Yeah, we lost connection for a second. I didn't hear him.
I said, where's he? Where's his shop at, or does he do it from home?
I heard home.
I said, where's his shop at?
Oh, so it's Karu Tattoo Company,
Mhm.
Kaeru. It's North Worth Street in Philly. The Globe, Globe something or another is the building. It's in Kensington.
Okay,
But Troy Souders is his name. He's an incredible artist.
okay,
Does amazing work. He used to work in Chinatown at Philadelphia Eddie's. You're thinking about getting a tattoo. He's the man.
got it.
And right now he's
So
booking for September.
he's booked until September.
He's booking for September right now.
Oh, okay, got it, got it. Okay, so to the Daredevil point, I didn't care for Daredevil Born Again initially because they were doing the Marvel things of old. Like, a lot of the old things Marvel was doing was good, but he was shaping things to his image way too much rather than going with what we liked about Daredevil. So he didn't want a lot of the main cast there. He didn't want um certain writers there to the point when they got far with it, they had to scrap a lot of what they did with it, and they took it back because he didn't want to embrace Marvel TV.
Mhm.
And I'm not good with that because to me, Daredevil is one of my favorite shows. Like live action is one of my favorite shows ever. Like not
Oh,
I'm
it
not saying
was
favorite shows of the 2010s, favorite shows ever.
it was incredible.
Yeah.
It I cannot I cannot overstate how absolute A, how much I love that show. B, how vindicating it was as a fan of Daredevil and the comics and everything,
Mhm,
for that show to have been as good as it was, and C, to see it like really lay the groundwork
mhm,
for the Defenders to
mhm,
come into the MCU through Netflix, and because those characters I've always really loved. I'm a huge Defenders slash Heroes for Hire fan.
mhm.
My favorite one is Iron Fist, and that's a whole other can of worms. But Daredevil was really good, and so
Yeah,
was the
it's so good.
Punisher, and so was Jessica Jones, and so was Luke Cage.
Mhm. The martial arts, the drama, the it was great.
Yeah,
So like just keep it the way it is.
yeah. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. Other things we don't like about what Disney's doing. Do you want to say Marvel?
I mean, we don't have to. We can circle back around. But um, I said earlier, when we weren't live, that it really feels to me, and this is not me flinging mud. I'm
Mhm.
not, just taking the shot at Disney to take the shot at Disney, as much as generally they currently annoy the piss out of me. Just an observation.
Mhm.
Disney currently, to me, seems creatively bankrupt in the same way that DC did 8 to 10 years ago, and has been for the past while. And the symptom thereof, why I'm calling that out, that I'm like, I see the writing on the wall here. I see the parallels. Is with the exception of their tentpole film projects, like the stuff that's still very classically Disney, the stuff that feels like, oh, this is where they're really putting their energy and their effort and their budget into. I mean, Moana 2, Frozen 3, Zootopia
Mhm.
2, a lot of the stuff that was shown at D23, like stuff that's proprietary Disney, not
Mhm.
stuff that they got through acquisitions. That stuff is where they're still trying.
Mhm.
Everything else, it seems like they are throwing whatever they can at the wall to see what sticks. And
So that's pathetic in a way though, because it's like
not in a way, it's extremely pathetic.
Okay,
They're
I'm
they're
gonna say it's pathetic because Disney actually doesn't give that much input to Marvel. Like they let Marvel do what they need to do. Where this for me, from what I read, what Disney went wrong is not to sound like a broken record, but like why are you why are we making 10 TV shows in 1 year where you're forcing these shows to connect? Like Moon Knight ended in a way. I don't know how people feel about Moon Knight. I don't have Moon Knight conversations, but um at the very least, whether it's good or bad, it ended not forcing a connection to a show or
I
movie.
all that I intend to say about Moon Knight, the beginning and the end of it for me, is that it was absolutely my least favorite Disney Plus Marvel TV show.
What is your favorite while we're here?
Falcon and Winter Soldier, easily.
Okay, I think I'm good with that because I mean I'm very biased
And
towards that
and then
that
followed
subgenre.
followed by Hawkeye.
You know, I think Hawkeye is my favorite. I'm
Hawkeye was really goddamn good.
I'm
And
into the Matt Fraction comics, so yeah.
oh yeah. Oh yeah. And yeah, I'm gonna say it too. And if anybody wants to have a conversation with me in the comments later, I'm always up for that. But She-Hulk was goddamn amazing. Even regardless of the visuals, that show was so true to the source material.
So you're a
And
fan of the finale?
yeah, oh, I loved the finale. The finale was like right out of the comic book pages.
Okay,
She-Hulk was breaking the fourth wall before Deadpool was ever a thought, man.
that's true.
But
But he's a man doing it, so it's better.
yeah, right. And that was one of the points that the show was trying to make, and I feel like given the reaction to it, it succeeded. But um, no, Moon Knight was sloppy. And
Okay.
I really wanted to like it. I love Moon Knight as a character. He's one of my
Mhm.
favorites. But it wasn't even necessarily an issue of writing or story in that show either, which sucks. It was the screenplay and the cuts and the directing and the pacing and everything. It just felt so rushed and choppy.
Mhm.
It's a whole lot of stuff happening really quickly all at once that if it took a moment and breathed would settle way more effectively, and it never does.
I'll rewatch and because I didn't soak that in because I think I spent a lot of time being confused, not confused like they made it confusing. I spent time being like, I wonder why this happened. Like, like the whole split personality thing, and then it was end with a lot of questions. So I spent more
Mhm.
time being confused in that way. So I'm gonna watch it now, knowing what I know, and actually try to analyze it.
But touching back on what you were saying earlier, it's not that I doubt what you are saying, it's that I
Mhm.
doubt what they are saying when it's relayed that Marvel pretty much gets to do their own thing and Disney leaves them alone. I That's very suspicious to me,
Mhm.
because if that were the and I don't doubt that that was the case when Marvel was putting out things like Infinity War and Endgame and Thor
Well,
Ragnarok and Winter Soldier,
you're
but
correct.
lately I have to question that, because
Oh,
what I mean when I say that they're
mhm,
throwing things at the wall to see what sticks is it's not just Marvel, right? It's
mhm.
also Star Wars, and it's also other stuff that they've picked up and are running their own adaptations with. It just seems
Well,
hollow.
don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's not Disney's fault. I'm saying it's even dumber if you're not forcing creative decisions and you're still
Right.
so because what I was going to say was Disney's messing Marvel up in a um a boss and worker way. The boss is like work faster, work faster, work faster, and the worker's like I can't, but now I'm stuck because you like so the CEO of Disney, the one who stepped down, where I got to come back. He made Feige announce things he didn't want to make, and
Yep.
so how Armor Wars isn't a thing, but we that was announced like 4 or 5 years ago. That was a concept, but Disney made him talk about that.
Yeah.
Blade was like a working concept, and now we kind of have to, they kind of have to release Blade now.
Yeah. Hmm.
So that's why I meant like. So I'm not saying it's not Disney's fault. I'm saying like
Gotcha.
they're they're good at saying make it the way you need to make it, but you need to make this, and it's too much, and it's some of Feige's fault too, because he overestimated how easy TV would be, which he admitted.
Right.
Where like TV and movies is different
Totally
pacing,
different.
different art form.
You can't just let the people that were handling your movies write the TV shows. It does not work like that.
And
But
he was producing them like they were movies.
what I need to clarify something quickly too, because I interjected a name into there that I know that if I don't clarify what I said, people are going to assume that I mean one thing and I mean the opposite.
Okay.
When I said that Star Wars is in there, as one of the properties,
which I agree with,
flailing its arms and trying to tread water and keep from drowning. I'm not one of these people out here that's like, oh, everything that Disney's put out under Star Wars sucks. No, I've enjoyed a lot of it.
What have you enjoyed, by the way?
I liked episode 7. I liked episode 9, despite it being hamstrung by episode 8, which I hated.
Episode 8.
Episode 8 was a war crime. But episode 9, like, if I ignore the ways in which it's objectively a bad movie and I allow myself to get wrapped up in the story they're trying to tell, it's enjoyable. Mm-hmm. But
this is 9.
What's up?
This is 9 you're referring to.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, despite it having been taken out at the knees by 8. But like and the shows, right? Like I love The Mandalorian. I love Ahsoka. I love Obi-Wan. Book of Boba Fett is my favorite Star Wars project ever.
Really?
Period.
Really?
Period. Above the prequels, above the originals. Boba Fett's my dude. It's my favorite character, and I love that show. Above Clone Wars. It is my favorite thing, Star Wars, ever.
Okay.
But because of this constantly vitriolic fan base who can't let go of the past and who can't allow Disney to breathe and make the creative choices that will allow them to tell any kind of story divergent from whatever expectations they may have that apparently aren't being met, we have The Acolyte, a show that, regardless of how you feel about the nuances thereof, was a very promising seed of something that could have grown into something culturally phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
And now it too has been taken out at the knees, this time not by a terrible choice of director, but by the fan base, because Disney's axed it. It's canceled it. Season 2 is not happening. And no idea where Star Wars is going from here, but that's a really, really bad symptom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was kind of weird that people, I mean, I feel like I'm talking to Sky, but like, you see a black woman casted and it's like, oh, they're trying to fill a quota or they're woke. And it's like, even if you think she's a bad actress, why is it that you think they hired her just because she's black? When has that been a real thing?
When people make comments on that level of ridiculousness online, I tend to assume that they're just doing it for attention. And that doesn't make it right or anything. It's still horribly stupid. It's just the only thing I've been able to come up with is like a why.
Yeah, because it's so stupid. It's like it's hard to understand.
Right. Like it's so stupid to me that the only way that my brain can go, okay, I guess, is if I'm like, that was probably just so that people would get upset and pay attention to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some people are like that.
Yeah.
So did you have any problems with The Acolyte while we're here?
Not really. No.
Mm-hmm.
I just watched it and took it as like, oh, okay, this is a new thing that Star Wars is doing. I'm not gonna. Even as much as I'm a fan of the extended universe and the lore and whatever, I'm not gonna be one of those people who sits here. I forget the name of the comedian, somebody watching, may or may not know and be able to provide this later, but they've a stand-up bit where they talk about a certain type of person who is unable to separate their reality and their expectations from an experience that they're having, like a movie or a show or what,
Mhm.
and they're just absolutely miserable people, especially to be around while you're watching or trying to um, consume any kind of media. And the punchline to his bit is I forget the entire setup, but the punchline has stuck with me my entire life because I saw this when I was, I don't know, maybe like 10, 12.
Okay.
And yeah, this is the same kind of person who sits at home watching The Wizard of Oz going, that's bullshit. Monkeys don't fly.
I see what you're saying.
Right? Like, I'm not going to be one of those people that sits there watching the Acolyte going, oh, the Jedi can't do this, that, or the other. Needs more Sith. It's not accurate to whatever lore was shoved up our asses since way before Disney took over. Like, I don't care. I don't
Mhm.
care. I've got way better things
And then they're
to
watching
do
every.
with my time. I just took it as a show and I enjoyed it.
Pretty normal to me.
And it had
Like,
Manny Jacinto in it, who I love, right? He was the best part of The Good Place.
is that where he's from?
He was I don't know if that's like where I would say, oh, that's where he came up, because I'm unfamiliar with anything he may have done before that. But he was
Oh, that's a
Jason
big fella.
Mendoza.
Did you lose me?
And I'm sorry, he was Jason Mendoza in The Good Place, and he was my
Okay.
favorite character in the whole show.
Okay. My bad. I thought my internet cut out. But okay, so I didn't know he was in that because I remember that show being a big deal. I only checked it out a little bit. It seemed pretty good, but I do plan on completing that before the year is over.
So how do I want to put this? Every season of that show, except for like the back half of the second to last season, it had 4 seasons, I think. So
Yes, I remember seeing that.
the back half of season 3 is rough. The rest of
Okay.
it, fantastic.
Okay. I mean, it's considered a sitcom, right? It's considered a
Yeah,
comedy.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. I'm usually I'm not too harsh on comedies. At least I don't think so. People might think I am because people think I'm a harsh critic. I don't know, whatever.
It's so it's not the comedic elements that are the issue. It's there's some problems I have with the overarching narrative, the story it tries to tell. Uh,
Mhm.
the wheels kind of fall off a little bit in the back half of season 3, but season 4 corrects it and it finishes really strong.
Okay. So yeah, but back to Acolyte. Yeah, I'm fine with it. I didn't have you being a Book of Boba Fett guy because the not the internet, but critics, nerd culture critics, kind of were a little harsh on it.
Yeah, and I didn't get it, and I still don't get it. Um, I love Boba Fett. He is my
Hmm.
favorite Star Wars character.
Hmm.
And I wasn't looking for him to be some silent, merciless, badass killer. That's not who he is. That's never been who he is. And the people expecting him to be that have never taken the time to invest in him as a
Wait,
character beyond the original trilogy.
there's people who
He's
expected that.
and that seems to be the problem everybody had with it. Oh, he looked weak in the fight against Cad Bane. Oh, there wasn't enough action. He didn't shoot enough
Cad Bane
people.
is strong.
What is wrong with you
Cad Bane
people?
took on Obi-Wan.
What do you want and what do you expect? I'm sitting there like, oh my God, they're finally giving him character development on the big screen. This is amazing.
Wait. They nitpicked that?
Those were like the biggest nitpicks I saw.
Did they watch Clone Wars? Like the non-Jedi characters in that show were formidable
Exactly.
opponents. Like,
And people will sit there and again, right? This goes back to, oh, the unrealistic expectations of these weird monkeys don't fly people are apparently not being met. Um because they were unhappy with it, they like to pretend like that show didn't have like big flashy moments or whatever. Dude, he rode a Rancor through downtown Mos Eisley. What do you want?
I thought, yeah, I was fine with the show. The only thing I would criticize, and not even a real criticism, but if I'm putting my critic hat on, was that I thought it was I don't want to say strange choice. I thought it was interesting that they
Oh no. I think the internet cut out again.
I can hear you.
You cut off after strange choice.
Okay, so the strange choice was that the Mandalorian, I don't remember his real name,
Din Djarin.
Din Djarin, and I thought it was strange that he had his own episode. Was it episode and a half he had?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I was entertained by it. I always go by, am I entertained by it first? I was entertained by it, but if I'm going to do the whole critical writer nitpicky thing, I was like, oh, you know what? I didn't really expect that. Like,
I didn't. I get where you're coming from. I personally did not mind that having happened, because it
it's fun for me.
reminded, in terms of like from a storytelling angle,
Mhm.
it reminded me of like old pulp serials and comic books
Okay.
where like something would be happening in a serialized issue and then it would cut away to something else for a little bit that would become tie back in and become relevant to whatever main thing was going on later. And it seemed like that to me is what happened with that and why that was
When you
there.
put it that way, that makes sense.
And I was fine with it. I was
And he
like,
ended up becoming a big help to the end,
right,
right?
exactly. And I was like, I feel like that's where this is going. I'm fine with it. And then when that happened, I was like, yep, see, there we go.
Okay. Yeah, see, like but no, I didn't watch that show. And you know me from Facebook. I used to be the guy who writes trash under everything. That's my caption. I didn't watch that being like, I can see how people will destroy this. I, I was fine with it.
I loved it. I loved it so goddamn much. And another way in which I'm biased towards it is Ming Na Wen. She's my favorite actress of all time.
Really, you know what?
That
I
woman
see you give
can.
her praise. I didn't know she was your favorite.
She's my favorite actress ever. That woman can do absolutely no wrong in my eyes. She's incredible, and I love the hell out of her. And seeing her be Fennec Shand and being his right hand and everything, that was. They could not have made a show more specifically to my tastes. It just could not have done that. So I, fully admitting my own biases, Book of Boba Fett is my favorite Star Wars project of all time.
Did you watch The Bad Batch?
Not yet. I need to get
She-
around to it.
She's in it.
Oh,
It's not
hell
even
yeah.
like a spoiler.
Love that.
Like they say it like in the her name's like in the episode.
Sweet.
So you'll enjoy that.
Yeah, that can only be a good thing.
So okay, she's your favorite actress because I remember I sent you something about her and you went off in a good way about it.
Oh
So
yeah.
that all makes sense now.
Yeah, you sent me that thing where it's like, oh, she's the only person to have the Disney Triple Crown or whatever, where she's been
That
in classic Disney, she's been in Marvel, and she's been in Star Wars. And I'm like, yeah. And if anybody, would, it's her.
mhm.
And like the next closest people to that are Samuel L. Jackson and I forget who else, but yeah,
Yeah.
she's had such an incredible career, and I don't think people talk about that or her enough.
Yeah, I agree. So are we ignoring her as Chun-Li or we're good with her being Chun-Li?
Her as Chun-Li was not the problem with that movie. Her her
The thing
and
is, yeah,
Raul Julia were
he was so good. He was so
they were
good.
the good parts of that movie.
It was the pop star they had as Cammy that
Oh,
people didn't like,
Cammy,
right?
Kylie Minogue? Nah, she was fine.
Okay.
She was fine, really. You know where my problems start with Street Fighter the movie is that they made Ryu and Ken international arms dealers
I forgot that was a
who
thing.
have to go and sell guns to Sagat. at a cage fighting arena like that? What?
Yeah, Ryu will never
Yeah,
do that.
it was not the performances other than Jean-Claude Van Damme, who I don't like him as Guile, but it was not the performances, in my opinion, that were the issue with that movie. It was the plot writing.
Okay, fair. I'll give you that. So what do you like about what Disney's doing? Do you like anything about classic Disney?
I like many things about classic Disney, dude. I'm a Disney kid. My top 5 Disney films ever made, in order, are The Great Mouse Detective, Frozen.
Really?
Oh God, Frozen. I can talk for forever about Frozen, and I'll circle back around to that in a second.
Mhm.
Coco, Black Cauldron, and Aladdin.
That's a good list.
And well, so thank you. And yeah, to touch back to Frozen, um, it started with the music for me.
Mhm.
You know about me and music. You know how precious and important music is to me. And
Mhm.
that movie's soundtrack, oh my God. Not just the vocal performances, right? Not just Adina and Kristen and Josh Gad and all of it, but the arrangements, the
Mhm.
instrumentation, the usage of leitmotif, the complexity of the arrangements and the layering and all of it. I get it, right? I get it that Let It Go was played everywhere and it was such an earworm, and now there's certain people who just can't hear it. It's like the "All I Want for Christmas Is You" effect. But I,
Two songs that don't bother me.
oh, there you go. See, I still love "Let It Go," and I'll still throw that on in my car and belt out vocals to it. Like the first time I heard that movie's soundtrack, here's me tipping my hand a little bit.
Mhm.
I used to be a pretty big stoner, and a lot of where a lot of where I experienced music in terms of like really opening up the sounds and the arrangements and everything, I did
Mhm.
under an altered state of mind. And the first time I heard the Frozen soundtrack, I was not. I was stone cold sober, but I was like, I'm gonna go back and watch this again
Mhm.
afterwards, and see if this still holds up. Like if I still come out the other end of this movie having gone, wow, that was the soundscape was incredible, and
Mhm.
it was even better. And I was like,
Okay.
God damn, that the entire remainder of that year, the Frozen
Mhm.
soundtrack was just on repeat.
Okay, it was that deep for you.
Car
Okay.
everywhere I went, unreal. And like musically speaking, there was not another movie that matched that for me until Coco.
Mhm. Okay. It's so. Give me that list one more time.
Great Mouse Detective,
Mhm.
in first place. Vincent Price as Professor Ratigan, the villain. The fact that it's just Sherlock Holmes with mice, and I'm so biased towards anything Sherlock Holmes. It's an
I'm a
amazing
big Sherlock
story.
Holmes guy too.
It's an amazing story. The characters are awesome. The animation is in that really neat 80s dark Disney period that is also shared with Black Cauldron and to some extent The Little Mermaid, where like the choices that they were making visually were really compelling and interesting while still being detailed and gripping. And I love that pocket of Disney animation. Frozen, Coco,
Mhm.
Black Cauldron, and Aladdin.
Mhm.
Aladdin, in my opinion, like complete package.
Mhm.
Um, Aladdin, I know I get it. I know how popular Lion King is and how many people swear up and down by it, and it cultural phenomenon, massively
Mhm.
popular, even though it's just Hamlet with lions. In my opinion, just taken as a story, leaving everything else out, the visuals, the music, the not the voices, because you still need like delivery for a story and everything,
Yes.
but taken just as a story, I think Aladdin is the best thing Disney's ever done.
Okay. Okay. That's not wild to me. Aladdin was a huge deal to me. Um, it's hard when I make a Disney list because they made so much A plus A tier stuff that I feel like I had to split hairs.
Mm-hmm.
Aladdin was a huge deal to me. So I get it. I'm not as big on Lion King as everybody else. Don't get me wrong. Like I think it's a great movie, but I think a lot of people instantly, like, especially our generation.
There's certain parts of the Lion King that I really love, like really love, and I don't dislike anything about it. It's just not. I wouldn't put it up there with my all-time favorites. That said, "Be Prepared" is my second favorite Disney villain song behind the world's greatest criminal mind from Great Mouse Detective. Um, that song, song gives me goosebumps every time. I don't know. I think the connection nose dove again.
The last thing I heard you say was the Great Mouse Detective song was number one. You said the villain song.
"Be Prepared" is
Mhm.
my second favorite Disney villain song ever, behind the only "World's Greatest Criminal Mind," which is from The Great Mouse Detective. And you cannot top Vincent Price singing in "World's
I
Greatest
gotta
Criminal
rewatch
Mind."
this because it's been a while for me. This is the second time we've talked about this. I'm gonna rewatch it.
It's so good, and it's so slept on. Nobody
Mhm.
really talks about it anymore because it because of Black Cauldron. Are you familiar with what happens, like, culturally speaking, with the release of Black Cauldron?
Is that the one where no one could find a VHS for it?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Great Mouse Detective also suffered from that
Mhm.
because it was released in that same pocket, and Disney was like, "Well, if Black Cauldron is scaring children so badly that they're crying and wanna leave the theater, and we have to pull all marketing and merch for it, Great Mouse Detective is pretty dark too, and we should hedge our bets and just pull all that too and start fresh with Little Mermaid." So that's what they did, and
Um,
it sucks because, man, I love both of those movies, but Great Mouse Detective, it's a hell of a film. And very occasionally, we'll get something for it. And
mhm.
anytime there's like new official merch for it, I'm on it like white on rice. I got the Funko Pop figures that they put out. They did 3 of them.
Okay. You know what my favorite Disney movie is? We just talked about this.
Zootopia,
It is.
and that's valid as hell. It's such a good movie. Zootopia might be sixth for me,
Okay.
honestly.
See, and that's why I suck at ranking things. Like, I don't know if it's the best, but I know like it strikes me as the best, but like I wouldn't like debate it because
It's
they
so
make
good.
so many good movies as a company.
They do, but Zootopia is so good. Like,
Yeah. I hope
I
Utopia 2 does it justice.
me too. I'll say this about Zootopia, right?
Mhm.
Speaking to your point about them doing so much A plus material,
Mhm.
I have zero complaints or criticisms about Zootopia whatsoever. It
Mhm.
is, in my opinion, a perfect movie. I just happen to like the other stuff that I rattled off even more. That's
That's
all.
how it is for me. It's like I don't have real complaints about the other Disney movies. It's even Disney movies I don't like that much, but it's not because they're not good movies. I probably just don't care about whatever theme it, it has in that movie. Like I'm like I kind of say this with Game of Thrones. Like I don't really care about the medieval stuff like that much. I just kind of watch it because the writing's cool. But
Yeah.
that say again.
No, I was just agreeing with you.
Oh yeah, yeah. So yeah, yeah. So there's just certain things like I'm into Marvel, so Big Hero 6 is up my alley. It's adapted from Marvel comic, and
Yeah.
even though it's not like the comic, it's still a superhero-esque movie. Incredible. So it's like I gravitate towards stuff like that. It may not be better than Finding Nemo, but I like it better than Finding Nemo. And they're both A+ movies to me. So it's like I'm gonna go with the one that fits what I'm into a little bit more.
Yes.
So that's just a long way of saying I agree with how you put that.
No, that does not surprise me. But yeah, no, everything you just said, absolutely.
So here's a question. What is there anything you've heard of? Because I'll be honest, I saw the D23 announcements, I read about them. I don't even think I remember all of them. Is there anything they announced that you're not into?
Not at D23.
Wait, wasn't Stark? Not Stark. Robert Downey Jr. Don't you have feelings about that?
That
I
was
think that was
announced.
a D23 thing.
That was announced at San Diego Comic-Con, and that's what I meant by not at D23.
Ah, you're right.
But
Well,
if it's
let's talk
is it
about that
is
then.
it time to talk about that? All right, hang on a
Yeah.
second.
He's doing this. It's just on standby for the audio audience. He has a green hoodie that resembles Dr. Doom. He just pulled out the mask.
Okay, so yeah, I have feelings. I have
Okay.
I have some pretty strong feelings about Robert Downey Jr. cast as Doctor Doom. Doctor Doom is extremely important to me. Doom was my first cosplay. It's this mask is the second iteration of what I used for my Doom cosplay, and it's what got me into cosplay to begin with. Way back
I
in
actually met you with
2017.
a Doom mask.
What's up?
When I met you, you had a Doom mask on.
Yes, yep, absolutely. Um, and I have to so speaking as a cosplayer, as somebody who has embodied this character that I love so very, very much, more than once over the years. And for what putting on a costume does psychologically, I have to actively fight the urge to slip into the Doom persona when this mask is on my face, when I have a hood up over my head and everything. And
Mhm.
I don't know if you can tell or not, but my posture has even changed. The way I'm sitting is totally different. It wasn't that was completely involuntary.
Yeah.
It's psychological. I have to fight the urge to just become him right now. But so speaking as somebody who has over the years portrayed Victor Von Doom to some extent, not in a movie, not in
Mhm.
a television show or anything else like that, but someone who has embodied this character that I care about so very much. I have absolutely zero faith in Robert Downey Jr.'s ability to pull off this role, um, on no uncertain terms. And to the people, there's a good amount of people out there who are not only are they taking the "oh well, let's wait and see" approach, but they're saying, "Oh well, if you recall back in the day when he was cast as Iron Man, everybody had their doubts about that then, and he knocked it out of the park." Yeah, sure, okay. The difference back then is that the hit movies that he'd been in up to that point were like Weird Science and Natural Born Killers. And then he strung
Mhm.
himself out on substance abuse, went to prison, and was having a career comeback. Marvel and Jon Favreau took a chance on him, and nobody was really sure how the project was going to turn out. We have the benefit of hindsight now. I'm very familiar with Robert Downey Jr. as an actor and his body of work, not just in Marvel, but in other stuff that he's done since, like The Judge, a whole string of really good movies and parts that he earned by killing it as Tony Stark and then branching out into other stuff and killing it there too. I know Robert Downey Jr. as an actor. I'm familiar with his range, which is awesome, right? Tropic Thunder, and there's a whole lot of stuff that's like running against each other in my head that he's done. But yes, it's a very good, very versatile actor, and entirely the wrong choice for Victor Von Doom, not just because he's already been Tony Stark.
Mm-hmm.
So they just put out a press release or a news story regarding him specifically, where he had to come out and like clarify, oh no, I am actually playing Victor Von Doom. It's not a Tony Stark variant. And the fact that there was like that compulsory assumption that came alongside of the casting announcement is a problem to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And a carry-on issue and struggle that they're going to need to or would need to overcome, that I don't think that him just saying that is going to do a whole lot to steer away from the trepidations about, but we'll see. I won't, but the public will. I need a minute. I had been waiting 16 years from the point that the MCU began, from Iron Man 1, 2008. I had been waiting 16 years to see a proper live-action Victor Von Doom with first-party Marvel writing behind him. Seeing, going to college for animation as I did, the influence that Marvel and these characters have had on me my entire life, and even after that, growing alongside of the MCU, and waiting all of that time, like, oh, at some point my boy is going to get his time to shine. Marvel is picking these properties back up from Fox and from Sony, and they're caring about these characters that they previously outsourced, and I don't have to settle for or think about those awful Fantastic Four movies again, right? There's a light at the end of the tunnel. At some point, it's going to happen. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And for them to have announced this, it came off like a really bad tone-deaf joke to me.
Man.
Like you said earlier, where when they announced, or not announced, the thing with the Disney Plus lawsuit, where you were sitting there looking at it like, is this real? That was my reaction to the announcement. I was sitting there looking at my phone like, is this The Onion? Is this a parody?
I'm sorry.
Is this satire?
It does. It did feel like satire a little bit.
And there's also a contingent of people out there like, oh, well, the room at Comic-Con was excited. Look how hard they popped for it. Yeah, they were, because it's San Diego friggin' Comic-Con. A lot of that room was filled with industry people to begin with who wouldn't know a comic book from a novel if you went up and asked them. And they're really excited, a lot of them, about...
There's a lot of shock factor, too.
A lot of shock factor. And
they might have went home like, you know what? That doesn't make that much sense. That's a possibility.
And they're really excited about what a lot of them hope this might mean for the MCU and Disney's bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
Because Robert Downey Jr. is an established, known, trusted actor that they feel will bring people back to watching the MCU as was previous. Meanwhile, Deadpool and Wolverine is killing it at the movie theaters for all of the right reasons, but never mind that. We're gonna go with this. There's another contingent of people out there pointing out, rightfully so, these people have a valid point that it's not just that Robert Downey Jr. shouldn't have been cast as Victor Von Doom. It's that there's a large number of people who shouldn't have been cast as Victor Von Doom. Victor Von Doom's not white. Victor Von Doom is of Romani descent. And there's a lot of really good, capable Romani actors out there that they could have cast in the role, or even Romani descent people that they could have cast in the role, done his heritage and culture justice, and just completely stepped past and overlooked that for in the pursuit of that shock value and of that established big now name that they hope are going to draw people back to movie theaters. I'm not going to be one of them.
Oh, really? You're like that off?
This has full stop killed my interest in the MCU. I don't care where it goes from here. And I
he
don't.
Might not be the final. He might just be.
I don't care.
The insiders think the real Doctor Doom, or the mainline Doctor Doom, is going to be a different actor.
I know, but I don't care. And I know where they're going with this, even, or where they seem to be going with this, even, because I'm familiar with the comic books and the infamous Iron Man storyline and the more recent Secret Wars that this seems to be building up to, that may or may not mean a soft universal reboot for the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's a swerve, even if it's a bait and switch, really, especially if it's a bait and switch, what an absolutely jackassed and ham-handed gesture.
I see where you're going.
Robert Downey Jr. as Doom in one of those offhand multiverse moments like we had in the second Doctor Strange movie, where John Krasinski was suddenly a Reed Richards, or like in Deadpool and Wolverine, where a lot of people were a version of a lot of different characters. That would have been neat, right? A cameo, or a little side story, a little like, oh, this guy is a Victor Von Doom. Swerve, surprise, it's another tech genius. It's we're letting the guy that played Tony Stark be Victor in this case. Never should have come before a proper Victor Von Doom.
It's definitely a reaction to Jonathan Majors getting in trouble and where they think the MCU is at state-wise. But that's, again, you're listening to the people that don't like Marvel or what it stands for.
And I truly don't understand why Kang can't simply be recast.
He was in like one movie and one show, and the one show he wasn't even really Kang.
Not even that, though. Yes and yes. But if we're operating off of the multiverse principle, and we've already seen the Council of Kangs, they were at the end of Quantumania, who's to say one of them isn't randomly Terrence Howard?
Right.
That would have been funny. That would have been awesome. I would have been living for that. But you're right. That was the form and function of what shook out, and for it to be Doctor Doom that gets the shitty end of that deal. Look, similar to how I'm not one of those people who sits on a couch going, "That's bullshit, monkeys don't fly." I've got way better things to do with my time than be so petty as to sit here and go, "Oh, I hope this kills the MCU." I don't hope that it does. Right? Whether it does or it does not has no bearing on my life. I'm separating myself from the MCU. I'm leaving it on a high note because Deadpool and Wolverine was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm saying is that if this tanks the MCU, they'll have done it to themselves.
Okay. And yeah, they're putting a lot of eggs in one basket because they're paying him like 200 million, something crazy.
Yeah. Uh-huh. They're paying him an amount of money that he would have been out of his mind to say no to. And
Mm-hmm.
speaking specifically to that, I don't even necessarily blame Robert Downey Jr. for this. You know, I don't blame him for taking that role.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody offered me the role of Victor Von Doom, would I have it in me to say no to that? Regardless of the amount of money offered.
Mm-hmm.
Would I, as a human being, if Marvel said, Dan, do you want to play Doctor Doom in the MCU? Would I have it in me to say no to that? No, probably not. But I do blame Marvel for this decision. And the comics are still there. I still enjoy them. They're still putting out the occasional really good animated project or video game. The Marvel vs. Capcom collection's on the horizon, and I love all of those games. But dude, I'm a busy man as is,
You
and
are a busy man. That is
if
for sure.
if I leave the MCU by the wayside, is it going to negatively impact or affect my life? No, I don't think that it will at this point. I think I'm good.
Okay. That's okay. Well, I mean, there's still two projects I'm really interested in, so I'm not there yet. I need to see my boy Sam Wilson and argue with the people who say it's too woke. Like it's just weird, like that they see someone who is American, it is canon to the comics, and they say like it's woke, and it's like black people don't even use the word woke in that way.
Tell me you're not a fan of Marvel without telling me you're not a fan of Marvel. Jeez.
Yeah, and I gave that too much attention, and I'm interested in Daredevil, but other than that, it's like I'm not like the way I used to be glued to my seat for these announcements. It's not the same for me, and it's
Yeah.
not because of what they've done recently. It's more, um, I think they're overreacting, and like it's like just do some of the same stuff you're already doing now that you're doing less movies and less shows. Like I think you should just recast the Kang.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that they should have. Um, I guess the best way for me to put how this struck me and how it affected me on like on an emotional and psychological level, which I get on the one hand sounds weird for a certain type of person to hear who like perhaps you do not have a character like Victor Von Doom is to me, where they were a huge part of forming your personality and informing you as a person as you grew and became whoever you are today.
Mhm.
Maybe there's not an equivalent there for whoever might be listening or run across this podcast, but having waited and hoped for so long as I did
Mhm.
to see Doom done justice in the MCU, it felt like the death of an old friend. And I mean, I was holding back tears a little bit ago here, but like when it happened,
Mhm.
I was angry crying.
Ah, okay. Well, when you put it that way, I can't even be mad at you. So because like I had a similar moment when I was young. So I had a TikTok. You like the post actually. It got 10K views. That's my first one. And my last part of the caption was, and it was about my favorite group in comics, the X-Men. X-Men is a big reason why I'm into like sci-fi comics, any of that. I remember I didn't always have money to go to the movie theaters. So a lot of times these movies will come out, but because there's no internet, there's no spoilers really. These movies will come out and I will watch them on VHS. The VHS was at my uncle's house. I popped it into the TV. You know, back then you had a little TV and the VCR was attached to the TV. I popped it in and I watched the X-Men movie. And I'm like, all right, we're finally doing this. I watched it. And I went to school and I told them, I was like, yeah, I watched the X-Men movie. And they were like, how'd you like it? And I was like, I didn't. And this is 10-year-old me. I wasn't even that kind of critic yet. And
Same
it wasn't
boat, dude.
really.
I get it. Yeah.
And
No,
it
I
wasn't even that it was
get
the
it.
worst movie of all time. Because now I could look at film. Is it a good film? Or is
Well,
it a
yeah,
comic movie?
of course it wasn't the worst movie of all time. It wasn't Elektra.
Fair. Fair.
It wasn't Ghost Rider
Yeah.
Spirit of Vengeance.
Yeah, you're right. But it just I just don't understand why name something after something and change everything about it. I didn't like that. Like there's like I don't mind if you change things to make it make sense for the continuity, but he ignored everything. Like Wolverine and Sabretooth fought just because they're both guys with claws. And it was like they didn't even know each other. I didn't like that.
I'm so with you on that, and to double down on that, and I wanna say that I've touched on this a time or two with you, but for a very long time in my life, I really hated Wolverine as a character, and
Wolverine overall or the movie Wolverine? The movie version of Wolverine.
the movie version of Wolverine is what began it, but eventually it was the character as a whole, because Wolverine, as he was intended by the two guys that created him, is a certain type of character, and I'm not alluding to something there that I'm not going to like say. That's not what I mean by certain type. I mean that he has certain qualities about him, such as being like 5 foot nothing, hairy, Canadian, very angry, chain smoker, whatever. That the film Wolverine completely glossed over and eschewed. I feel that Hugh Jackman was a horrible choice in terms of casting for Wolverine. Not only does he not look anything like Logan, he doesn't act anything like Logan in any of the movies, in my opinion, until Deadpool and Wolverine.
You said something like this to me before. Yes. Okay.
And Deadpool and Wolverine finally, all these years later, redeemed Hugh Jackman Wolverine for me. It was incredible. It was perfect in my opinion. And like I'm at peace with the character again now. But the problem that I had with the character in the interim is that because we had generic pretty man action hero Hugh Jackman Wolverine in the movies, which was very popular and sold like gangbusters, especially with people who had no idea of the source material. Marvel, looking to capitalize and cash in on that, started retroactively making Logan more and more like that in the comics, and that pissed me off. That annoyed me. Like, why would you retroactively change a character that was already established, had a certain way that they were? And I say, why would you? Of course, I know the why. It's money, but it's a really shitty why, and it was not a why that I approved or approve of, and so I grew resentful of Wolverine as a character.
But it's weird because it's like it doesn't pull in more people when you do that,
right?
So it's like,
yeah,
I think your why is very correct. Like
Marvel wasn't expanding their audience by doing that. They were alienating their hardcore Wolverine audience, and I guess gaining more of a casual fan base for him, but not the sort of people that like are going to sink tons of money in the Wolverine merch. So
No.
yeah,
All right. Well, we went for like 90 minutes. So
yeah,
do we want to do some wrap up topics or like quick questions or something?
sure, I'm good with that.
Okay. So okay. So I'm freestyling because I didn't write any questions down.
No worries.
A favorite portrayal of Doctor Doom. This is probably hard. Well, no, you know what? You're probably going to say the answer I'm thinking. Favorite portrayal of Doctor Doom outside comics.
Earth's Mightiest Heroes,
I knew it because
100%.
I think it
Earth's
illustrated what he was pretty quickly.
Earth's yes, yeah. Earth's Mightiest Heroes did a really good job of staying true to all of the characters in its cast, and that was impressive because there were a whole lot of them. It covered a wide range of Marvel lore, and I remember just even before we got to Doom in that
Mhm.
show, out the gate being impressed with I'm almost certain that the first arc, like villain arc there, was the Avengers versus Loki, and
Yes,
it
it
was
was.
so well done. And that's when I like that for watching that first arc. That's when I was like,
Mhm.
okay, the show's got something. It's different. It's not another like made for kids, but also has appeal to adults Marvel show. This
Yeah.
one's for the fans, and I stuck with it, and I'm glad that I
Mhm.
did. If I'm not um if I'm not going with Earth's Mightiest Heroes, my favorite portrayal of Doctor Doom is the Marvel Ultimate Alliance games.
Okay, that's
Also
a good
very
one.
good.
Those were the two answers I thought you would go with. Okay, who's your second? Do you consider Doctor Doom a villain?
Going back to what I said earlier about how people are very rarely one thing.
Hmm.
Great characters are very rarely one thing. Is Doom always a villain? No. Is Doom a villain? Yeah, a whole lot of the time. But
Give me
Doom's
one second.
also
Keep cooking. I'm gonna open the door for my dog.
sure. Doom's also been an anti-hero. Doom has been an out and out across the board actual hero. Um, Doom has been all of that and many things in between as well.
So, I didn't hear the last part. My dog started making noise.
Oh no, no worries. So I said Doom has been a villain. Doom has been an
Mhm.
anti-hero. Doom's been an out and out across the board actual hero, and many things in between as well. Um, just depends on what story we're talking about and what his role is in it at the time.
So it's
Doom
like
Doom has
Magneto.
yes, though I would say that Magneto is a lot more whereas Magneto is a lot more nuanced in his motivations
Mhm.
and versatile with that. Doom's motivations are always pretty solid. It's always what can I do to better myself,
Mhm.
advance, my position, my status, my goals, and make better the existence of the people of my country. Um, it's Doom's methodology that has the wide variety and versatility and so on and so forth. Doom has done everything from take over the world, to take over the multiverse, to
Mhm.
save the world.
Mhm.
Again, it just depends on the story. Doom's single-handedly taken down the Avengers. Doom's been taken down by Squirrel Girl solo. In my opinion, I would say that above Magneto,
Mhm.
above Thanos, above whatever other villain you care to name, Doctor Doom is the Marvel villain. He's been present for like the most not just the most story and the most Marvel Universe world building out of any of the big villains.
Mhm.
But everything keeps feeding back and coming back around to him specifically whenever something really big is going down or
Mhm.
There's scales and stakes that come up above a certain threshold. Doom is involved somewhere. It's basically a given. He's not. It's not just that he's like the Fantastic Four antagonist. That it's not just that he's a guy that occasionally shows up to ruin the day of world governments and whatever. He's a constant in Marvel that if I'm honest, like fully honest about how I feel about the MCU, if I had any overarching criticism of the MCU as a whole, it's that it took them this long to get around to involving him. And again, it's in my opinion, it sucks terribly, worse than anything else, the way in which they're choosing to do so.
I could agree with that. I think they should have made it a priority when they bought them back.
Yep, I agree.
Have you ever watched Iron Man Armored Adventures?
Yes, I have.
How'd you feel about his portrayal on that?
Not bad. A
Was it as good as the
little
others?
a little cookie cutter for
Okay.
my liking. He was in that he was what he needed to be, and they didn't really explore deeper too much. And there's nothing really wrong with that, right? It got the job done, but there's a whole lot to do.
I do think putting him against a group like the Avengers illustrates what he is. Especially since the shows are 22 minutes, I think putting him in Earth's Mightiest Heroes illustrates what he is more efficiently.
Yeah, and when you have a long form, not just TV, but an even longer form storytelling medium like a video game, going back to the Ultimate Alliance games, and you really get to like the character exposition and background and dialogue and everything. Characters like Doom really shine because when you have a very nuanced and layered character like he is, the more time he gets to have relaying and conveying what he's about to the audience, the more they connect with him and come to understand him, the more it's like, oh, well, I like to call it the Killmonger effect, where it's like, oh, well, maybe this dude has a point, right?
That's
It's
the
not.
Killmonger effect. Yeah.
It's not entirely that he's just an aggrieved jackass. He's making some level of sense, and Doom, and Magneto are like Marvel's first two big characters that were like that. And when they discovered that writing villains like that was very effective, they kept doing it.
Yes. Okay. Well, I think that's a good place to stop. What are we going to talk about next time? Just to leave the audience with something. We don't got to think of it on the spot, but like preliminary topics.
Well, earlier you brought up how you had no idea that I was so into Street Fighter, and
Oh, yeah.
dude, I can talk about fighting games endlessly.
Okay. Let's do that because I have a bunch of feelings on fighting games. Partly because I'm not good at them. So,
If you ever want to be good at them, I can help with that.
oh, okay.
Literally, I know that you know that I used to be an educator. I
Yes.
don't know if I've ever told you what I did at that school.
Smash Brothers.
So not just Smash Brothers. I was their esports coach. And so I was paid to teach kids how to play games competitively. And Smash was the big game, but we also played Street Fighter, Tekken, King of Fighters, Guilty Gear,
Oh.
all of that. And the way I did it was I applied the teachings that I learned as a kid, taking martial arts to that space in terms of respect and rules of engagement and healthy competition. And the feedback that I was getting from parents and families about the social emotional learning and growth in their kids in my program was fantastic, which is a separate thing. But my point being, if you want to learn how to play fighting games, I got you.
All right. Well, let's talk about that more.
Sounds great.
Okay. And we got to do the Tarantino thing one day. but that's
Oh
not
yeah,
the topic.
we keep saying yeah we're going to talk about that, and then it keeps not happening. But
But I'm
yes, I
gonna
would
prep
love
more
to.
for that anyway. So
I have seen now Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and oh my god, love it.
you loved it.
Yeah, it was so
Good.
good.
Okay, good. Now I have someone else to talk about that with because I don't know many people who've seen it.
I love that so much.
Okay. Well, let's end it there just for because we're into the same stuff. We could go on for hours, and I know
Yeah,
we both got work tomorrow.
that is true.
All right. Well, thank you for coming through. Let's schedule a time. I know you're a super busy guy, so was whenever you're free.
It sounds good to me, man. And I'm actually more free on weeknights than I am on weekends. So doing this on like a Tuesday or Wednesday, it works for me. Thank you for having me on again, and I greatly look forward to next time. For those of you who are interested in following me in my heavy metal cosplay lifestyle and/or talking with me about nerdy stuff, I'm Dan Von Doom on all my socials. Which I guess is Instagram and Twitch, and then I'm Dan Angelo on Facebook.
Okay. Let me see if I can put that in the teleprompter real quick. Is Dan like is the dots between everything, right?
Yeah, Dan.von.doom on Instagram. I think on Twitch it is all one word, Dan Von Doom.
They're good at correcting it anyway.
And if you type in Dan Von Doom on Facebook, I think I come up regardless.
Okay. I'm trying to mess with this new
And
feature.
and case in point to everything I was saying about Doctor Doom, I take my name from him. I take my social media name and cosplay name and now my DJ name from Victor Von Doom. The character has informed so much of my life and who I am. And
So he's your like he is to you what Avatar is for me.
yes, yes, precisely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm like a mom who says we're gonna leave the cookout and I keep talking.
The connection cuts out right when we're stopping anyway.
Oh, okay. There we go. All right, I'll
But
hit you up and I'll have you on soon.
sounds great, man. Have a great night. Until
All right,
next
you
time.
too.
Bye for now.
All right, see you.